I've got 5 years worth of annual inspections under my belt now for my Cessna 182. And so I'm starting to build a little bit of a data set where I've got more than just one data point, right? Because any one year might be up or it might be down. As you're about to see, it definitely fluctuates. And so I want to get transparent, and hopefully it'll be a resource to you just to tell you what I've been paying. But then I really encourage you to stick around for 2 reasons. One is because I really want to just give context around these numbers and kind of my own take on the finances of aviation. And so if you're looking at your kind of the numbers are daunting or whatever, like, stick around. Let me just kind of tell you my perspective on it. But then secondly, if you are finding this video because you're interested in buying an airplane, you're doing some research, then I have something really exciting for you. I'm working on an airplane buying course, like all the steps involved in buying an airplane based on my experience and that of my aviation mentors and friends that will be joining me on camera. I think it'll be an awesome resource. It's not ready yet, but I'm working on it, and I'll tell you at the end of the video how to get on the waiting list. So a lot of awesome information coming up. Let's dive right into it. So when I bought the airplane in 2016, I was based in Dallas, but my mechanic was based in Coleman, which is nowhere near Dallas. But I had some family friends that all got their airplanes serviced there. And so just in an effort to, have a reliable mechanic up front, I just went ahead and used that shop because I trusted it. But it definitely led to a logistical battle, right? Because the airplane where it gets serviced is nowhere near where I live. And so, you drop the airplane off, but then have to drive 3 hours home and rent a car or get someone to pick you up. It was just kind of difficult. But I started there for the first couple of years. And one really good benefit of that is that I had rural labor rates, right? It was way cheaper than what you're going to see here now that I get my airplane serviced in Addison. So the very first year, my first annual was just under $6,000. A lot of that was actually made up in parts expense because I just bought the airplane and I wanted to upgrade some different things. I put some new fairings on it, which are surprisingly expensive, put some LED lights on it, some different things. So there's some parts, some investments that I made there. The next year was a lot cheaper. It was a pretty nominal inspection. Really nothing big came up. It was about $2,800. I'm still enjoying those labor rates. But then the next year I decided, look, I've done this for 2 years in a row. I don't want the logistical hurdle of having to fly an hour and a half and then drive 3 hours home and then reverse it on the way back. That was just getting really old. And so I found a shop at Addison that I really love. I've got a great relationship now with them, and I trust them a lot. But their labor rates are quite a bit higher. So starting in 2018, my labor rates went up, and then in future years they went up again, right? So 2018 was definitely the most painful annual I had from a cost perspective. It came out to about $14,000, which was a bit of a punch in the gut, but it was all stuff that needed to be done, and I'll talk about it later. But we went through every inch of the airplane and fixed anything that needed to be fixed. But I was paying more, in labor. But then I also had other parts, things like you had oil leaks, some alternator stuff, some carburetor fixes. I had a seat rail airworthiness directive, which is common in Cessnas. That's surprisingly expensive to fix, and some fuel system fixes, just a lot of things. And I was happy to do it. Wasn't expecting it to be 14 grand, but it is what it is. The next year in 2019, it got a little bit better. It wasn't 14 grand, but it was still expensive. It was just under $11,000. But this year in 2019, I also had some things, some regular interval things that I didn't have the year prior, like my 500-hour magneto inspection, right? Or my pitot-static inspection, just some things that were coming due. I got a new battery. I had some alternator things I had to address. I had to get a new carburetor. I had to buy a new muffler. And so just some different things that just didn't come up. And some of them wouldn't have happened in 2018 because they weren't yet due. So 2019 was painful, but less painful than 2018. But then luckily in 2020, it was way less. It was a very nominal inspection. It was about $4,700, which is still expensive, but the labor rates had gone up also over the last few years. But this was a pretty normal inspection and nothing huge came up. So there are a few important really things to address. Don't just take the numbers at face value. I want to give you a little bit of commentary around them. But as you'll notice, the average expense for these 5 years came out to about $7,700 or so. So the first thing worth pointing out is, could I bring this expense down? Well, yes, absolutely. Not only just from a labor rate, right? Like picking a more affordable geography and going rural, or if you're living in a more rural place than Dallas, then like your shop rates are probably going to be a lot less. And so in fact, if you go back and you just adjust for how much labor I had in each of those years and just assume that all of it was done at that 65 an hour shop rate instead of the much higher rate that I'm experiencing in Dallas, that average would come down to just above $6,000 instead of close closer to $8,000. So it's quite a bit cheaper. And I'm also not doing any type of owner-assisted annuals. Like, there's certain things that you can do yourself as the owner, and I don't feel qualified for that. I don't have experience with that. Maybe I'll do that someday, but right now I'm not doing any of that. I'm completely handing off the airplane to someone else. So if you're looking at that with like jaw drop and you're like, you're spending almost $8,000 every year on average at annual, like, mine should be way less. Like, it very well could be less, right? For the reasons I just mentioned. So don't freak out. Like, mine are probably more expensive than average because of those reasons that I just mentioned. But point number 2 is so important here, because yes, while $8,000 on average per year is a lot of money, I didn't buy an airplane until I could really make the commitment that I was never going to skimp on maintenance. Of all the ways that you can get hurt in this hobby, I did not want my maintenance decisions to be a reason that I ever got hurt. Like, it's just so avoidable. And so if you're trying to fret like $100 maintenance decision or $200 maintenance decision or $1,000 maintenance decision, like, I didn't want that ever to be a decision that I had to make. Like, gosh, I don't know, is it worth it? Is that worth my safety? Like, I don't want to make that decision. And so I didn't buy an airplane until I was in the financial position that it was like, I'm always going to fix the airplane. I'm going to put the airplane in as best possible mechanical shape as I can all the time, no questions asked. And so that's just been my philosophy on it. I think it's kept me safe, and that will always be my philosophy on it. And so do I end up paying maybe a little bit more to keep it really mechanically sound? Yeah, I might, right? But that's so worth it to me, and that was a non-negotiable. So you have a couple years where it costs a lot less, and that feels good. You have some years it costs $14,000. That kind of sucks, right? But like, I've already pre-committed to bearing that, right? And so it sucks less, right? Just because you've already made the decision that you're willing to do it. The third point, as you are thinking through these annual expenses and all the other ownership expenses that come with aviation, if you're really trying to wrap your head around it, figure out how to justify it, I mean, it's a lot of money, right? Or just how you view it. I wanted to share with you my own perspective on the finances of aviation, and maybe it will help you form yours. It's very simple. It comes down to 2 points. The first point is I really try to live my life living within my means, spending less than I make. And if I can do that when I make a little or I make a lot, things are good, right? It's hard to get upside down. And then the second really important thing is that, if you can live within your means and hopefully have some left over, then you ultimately get to decide where you want to dedicate your residual money, but also time, effort, resources, energy, focus. You get to decide where that needs to be allocated in your life. And so if what residual time and money and energy and bandwidth you have can include aviation and still live within your means, then awesome. I think, to me, that's been all the financial justification that I need. I try to keep it very, very simple. But if it can't, like if I can't live within my means, or I have some residual money and time, but not really enough to fully pursue aviation, then I haven't pursued aviation. And there's been times in my life where I haven't done that, right? Because I can't check those 2 boxes and still pursue it. And then now I'm in a season of life where I can, and so I am pursuing it. And so I just try to boil it down to those 2 really simple things to live my life by, and it's really, really helped me, and I hope it'll help you too. And the last point I want to make is that if you're watching this video and you're thinking, gosh, hey, Charlie, I'm living within my means. I've cut my expenses down as much as I can, but flying is still just not really in the cards right now, then I would encourage you to consider finding ways to increase your income, which is so much easier said than done. And I'm right there with you. But what I have done over the course of time is I've built up some side hustles that now pay for all of my flying. And so, you can only do so much on the expense reduction side before, like, you still have to pay for stuff, right? You still have to pay for life. You got to eat, you got to, sleep somewhere. And so there's only so much you can do on that side, although it's really important. But eventually you might have to increase your income. And so it really, in an effort to hopefully enable more people to pursue aviation, I'm pulling back the curtain a little bit, and I want to share with people what I do to make side hustle money. And I'll just tell you right now, it involves building niche websites and YouTube channels that drive traffic and make money a number of different ways. And And so I'm putting together kind of a structured course to really give you the ins and outs of how I do that, how that makes money, you know, how you can start to hopefully pay for flying with that, like how much time and effort do you need to put in that to have it end up paying for flying. I see it as a need in the community. I get asked all the time, like, hey, how do I make this more affordable? And right now, this is what I feel like I can offer to the aviation community. And so you might consider a side hustle, whether it's the stuff I do or something else, but I think this course will help give you some structure as to at least, hey, it's working for me and a lot of my other friends and people I know in this space. So I think it can work for you too. And so that is actually launching in a couple weeks. I'm almost done with it. I've put a lot of energy into it, and it's not quite done, but if you're watching this in the future, it will be. But either way, the way that you can get on the waiting list or find out more about it is over at airplaneacademy.com/join. And so you'll be on the waiting list for that. You'll get an email notification when that launches. But in the meantime, you're also going to get my 5-day email series, which covers the most impactful lessons that I've learned in my 16 years of flying. It's just kind of an honest take of, hey, here's the stupid stuff I did, here are some of the good things I did, and what I learned, you know, in training, and what I learned about airplane ownership and buying an airplane. It's just kind of 5 succinct lessons there that really share the most impactful ones over my years of flying. And then again, you'll definitely be notified when my passive income course launches for my side hustle stuff. But I also mentioned at the very beginning of the video about how to get on the waiting list for my How to Buy an Airplane course, and conveniently it's in the same exact place that I just mentioned, all over at airplaneacademy.com/join. And so you will definitely be in the know whenever I'm going to launch those courses, and you'll definitely be able to get your hands on that and hopefully get some value out of it in the meantime when you get my 5-day email series. So thanks for watching. Hey, if this was helpful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you gave the video a quick thumbs up, give it a like, and that'd mean a lot to me. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the comments, and also see you next week.